Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. So this past Thursday, I got to the theater for preview night, as I will do quite often, to go check out the latest addition into Disney's live-action catalog. You know, you got to do the quotes nowadays because all of the animals, of course, are CGI. But I was excited for this because Mr. Tim Burton was directing, and I dig a lot of the stuff Tim Burton does. He doesn't always get everything 100% right, but I always appreciate his vision and the way he approaches, movies like this one, and the concept of Tim Burton getting to build a circus with a certain big-eared elephant. I was just really excited about that idea. And for the most part, this isn't a perfect movie. This is a rock-solid addition to the catalog, and I think Tim Burton gets a lot more right than he gets wrong. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into Dumbo. And when you're talking about getting things right, Dumbo is the best part of this movie over and over and over again. I was really, really impressed with how well Burton was able to capture Dumbo in a live-action format that still was able to give you the magic and believability of a flying elephant. And what I think works really well here, and throughout the entire movie, the visuals are some of the most spectacular things I've seen Burton do for a very small, realistic movie. You really can buy everything you're watching on screen, and what you're watching is a pretty wonderful spectacle. And it's front and center with the Dumbo stuff. And I think the thing that works best with Dumbo is that he feels realistic. It feels like he's there. It feels like our actors can interact with him. And even with the big ears, they look realistic. They feel like they're real. But he gives him the big blue eyes. And oh my gosh, talk about what a wonderful decision. It does make Dumbo look a little bit more animated than realistic in the face. But he is able to just capture everything Dumbo is thinking with his eyes. He does deviate from the 1941 Dumbo as far as the animals aren't front and center outside of Dumbo in the movie. It's more about the full circus with the different acts, like the strong man and the clowns and all of that stuff. But there's just so much for Dumbo to see that his eyes are just so big. He captures all the wonder every time he sees something new. The playfulness when he sees the feather floating around. The sadness, when he's missing his mom, Mrs. Jumbo. It works so well because you can buy that he's there, but the animated effects in his eyes just allowed you to capture all the wonder of what he's taking in. He's a brand new baby elephant, and everything he sees is magical to him, and his eyes capture that. And when he's scared, you get that. Just everything is accentuated because of the eyes. And then what you watch, you want to talk about wonder, man. Just capturing your imagination, making you feel like a kid again, making you feel like you could believe an elephant could fly. Every time Dumbo takes off, wow, man, it's just breathtaking. And it does. You get goosebumps. Your hair stands up on end, man, and it is a magical experience to watch Dumbo fly. And Burton does such a great job of capturing classic images from the 1941 movie that, he recreates the fire tower scene. The first time Dumbo flies. I think it's probably the most spectacular scene in the entire movie. But then the way he's able to play with shadows just gives you imagery that you can take from the 1941 movie and go, oh man, I remember this and I remember this, and that was a cool way to do that. And Dumbo is just spectacular start to finish. I also love his mom, Mrs. Jumbo, and I like that part of the story is still rock solid and from the 1941. Mrs. Jumbo freaks out because she's trying to protect Dumbo, gets shipped away, and all that stuff plays so well. But Mrs. Jumbo's, animation is also very realistic. She looks like a real elephant. But then when you get, again, into the eyes, Burton gives her little circles underneath, which are kind of like the little circle lines that are drawn on the 1941, movie. I thought stuff like that was spectacular, and the relationship between Mrs. Jumbo and Dumbo is just so wonderful. It's the emotional pull. The emotional pulls in this movie I thought might come from the humans. They all come from the elephants, man. The story of Dumbo and Mrs. Jumbo just hooks you every time, and it does mirror quite well with what Burton decides to do with his newly established family in the movie, the Farriers. And I tell you, Colin Farrell does a really good job playing the dad, Holt Farrier. But it's the kids, man. The kids are the thing I think Burton just gets to work so well and parallel so well with Dumbo's story. Nico Parker, who plays Millie Farrier, the standout in the movie after Dumbo for me. She is absolutely spectacular, man. She's so quiet and reserved, and all of the things she does are so nuanced and subtle. But she just captures your heart and pulls you into this movie, and the relationship that she has with Dumbo, it's just magical. And the moments that they get to have in the movie together are by far and away my favorite after watching Dumbo Fly. And I really like that you could take, a classic character, 1941, Timothy Q. Mouse, and, get to show him in the movie, albeit in a very small capacity, but replace that concept with these two kids. Finley Hobbins, who plays her brother Joe, same thing, man. He's the younger of the two, so he's capturing the wonder and amazement the way Dumbo does, man. And the way he draws in when he figures out the feather is what makes Dumbo fly. That stuff is just so wonderful, and watching, Nico Parker interact with Finley, their relationship is really nice on screen. They're a really nice team that kind of pull you through the movie along with Dumbo, and I thought it was a really inventive, nice way to twist it a little bit and not have a mouse lead the way, because we have no talking animals in this movie, and that makes the movie feel realistic. What makes you buy into, I believe what I'm watching, and when you watch Dumbo do things, it captures your imagination and makes you believe an elephant can fly, and I just thought Burton nails that stuff so much that's the heart and the crux of the movie. And it's moving. It doesn't quite emotionally punch as much as I thought it was going to. But it's such a wonderful story to watch play out. And I love that mirrored parallel, you find out something happened to the kid's mom while, their dad, Colin Farrell's Holt, is away at war. Something happens. So that kind of mirrors, the Dumbo relationship. And then getting, Dumbo back to Mrs. Jumbo is also kind of mirrored in the way that Holt kind of reconnects with the kids again. And I just love that whole story. And then, Colin Farrell does a really good job. I mean, it's not one of his best performances. It's not like a massive breakout, but it's subtle and just rock solid. He plays a really solid dad who's trying to refine himself after the war and, losing an arm, being kind of taken out of what his role used to be at the circus. Having to adjust to that stuff, and he does it subtly, but just rock solid performance. And he kind of get teamed up with someone who, just the perfect person to put into a Tim Burton movie, man. Ava Green, wonderful in this movie. She really does, capture you. She is stunning and unique enough the way you would expect her to be. Although I did think that I would have liked her to have popped a little more. She gets some wonderful moments, but she's this kind of high flyer from the circus that works with Michael Keaton's V.A. Vandevere, who we'll get to in a moment. But she has some wonderful stuff, and I love her relationship with Dumbo. I love her relationship with the kids and with Holt. But I thought you could have maybe made her shine a little bit more than Burton does here. But because of that, it kind of falls into a more middle of the row, performance as far as her catalog of performances. But she's so good. I mean, even when you're in the middle of the row with Ava Green, her performance is really solid. Like I said, it's magical to watch her interact with Dumbo, and I love the relationship she has with the kids and Holt, and I love the story that's there with her and V.A. Vandevere, and that's where I thought maybe you could have shown a little bit more some of that earlier stuff before we kind of meet them in the middle of the movie. But oh man, I felt she worked really well, and I like that relationship to kind of center the core and the heart of the movie. And it really is. It has a wonderful family kind of message and tone and story, and that's the stuff that Burton gets to connect with you. And then when you just watch what he does the rest of the movie, I mean, You want to talk about utilizing your character actors so well. Oh my gosh, Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton playing Max Medici and V.A. Vandevere. Medici, obviously the owner of the Circus, and he just fits the vibe so well. The very first thing we see is that locomotive, and the way it's kind of dilapidated and the paint is peeling off of the different cars. It feels like an old circus that's struggled to survive, and Max Medici feels like a character that Frank might have pulled off in Always Sunny, where he kind of schemed enough to keep this thing afloat for as long as he had, but he's kind of running down to the end of the line, and when Dumbo happens, it kind of brings in the eyes of V.A. Vandevere, who's this massive, spectacle kind of an owner, and, is building a circus involved in an amusement park at this place called Dreamland, and Michael Keaton is spectacular. He is the perfect villain in this movie. The way he is having fun and playing around, listen to his voice. It changes throughout the movie for different tones and settings, and he is kind of a chilling villain at times. Or I was sitting there, I was like, man, if someone doesn't do like a Frank Miller Batman and he cast Keaton to play Old Man Bats, get Keaton into a Batman movie at some point, have him play like the Riddler or do something that we haven't seen on screen in a while that he could just... Oh man, you just saw it. It's so there, and he's wonderful in the movie. He's, big enough and flamboyant and flashy enough where it fits the spectacle of his, amusement park circus. And I love that comparison next to Max. Max is a little bit of an odder fellow. And DeVito is perfect for that. And, you look at the older circus versus the spectacle, and you understand what lures Max over there and why, because he's trying to save his circus any way he can. Of course, VA is really only interested in Dumbo. And he's just, like I said, Keaton's the perfect villain. And I love watching DeVito play Max Medici this entire movie. He's really funny, and he has this wonderful relationship with a monkey who also feels realistic in the sense that you can feel like he's there, but is animated and cartoon enough to really capture some funny moments. And I just enjoyed that stuff. And it was nice to have sprinkles of humor in here, because the one thing that I liked and didn't like about the movie is it is kind of heavy, man. It's dark toned as most Burton movies are, but it is heavy and it is sad a lot, man. And like I said, the Dumbo stuff really pulls on your heartstrings. Watching that relationship with Mrs. Jumbo and trying to get him back to there. But he executes it all so well. And the other thing that Burton does in this movie, besides elevating his characters and his cast, the visual spectacle in this movie is subtle in approach. It's not as flashy as I think, other circus movies we may have seen, but it's subtle in its approach, and its spectacle is wonderful to watch. From Medici's rundown circus to Dreamland, the visuals in the movie are wonderful. And like when you right out the gate, when you see the locomotive, like from the way the wardrobes and the circus and everything looks with Medici, it almost has like a cartoon texture to it. It's kind of cool. And I like what he did visually throughout the whole movie. And then, of course, it's the things that he captures, from the original movie. Like the moments like, the fire tower with Dumbo is wonderful. Getting to watch him fly and that relationship with Mrs. Jumbo. But the thing that I think Burton nailed, and might have been the best spectacle of the movie, the parade of pink elephants. Oh my gosh, man, the use that he has of bubbles. And then what elevates that whole scene, I mean, that is just, you can sit there and just, wow, this is so amazing. Watching Dumbo, watch that with the amazement that we're having watching it. It's a wonderful scene. It's probably my favorite in the entire movie, outside of the first time that Dumbo takes off. And like I said, I think he's just at his peak for using visual manipulation to just give you things that are just building a world that's so magical but so realistic. The one thing that I don't think always works in the movie is the human story. There's wonderful elements, but there are times where it's like it's not capturing you, it's not hooking you as much as the Dumbo story is, which I'm okay with because I'm here for Dumbo. But it does kind of slow the pacing down a couple times in the movie, and there are things that you wish were a little more elevated. Like I said, some of the stuff with Ava Green. But overall, I think Tim Burton had a really solid go with Dumbo, and I thought he made a really nice adaptation to a 1941 cartoon that's different in certain ways, but also tips the cap, makes nice nods to the original and inserts things that are very, very familiar from an image standpoint, and then builds this wonderful world. I mean, Dreamland is wild. The amount of different places, like where Mrs. Jumbo ends up, that whole sequence is amazing, and it's dark and it's creepy, but then there's these wonderful bright places. He just added so much, and made a really believable Dumbo movie. So overall, Seaman dug Dumbo. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it is rock solid, and it is because you just get captured in the imagination and the wonder of a big-eared elephant that can fly. So there you go, man. Those are all the Seaman's non-spoiler thoughts about Dumbo. Now it's your turn, man. I want to know if you've seen the movie. Did you dig Dumbo, or are you kind of in the middling area of like, yeah, it was okay. It has some moments. Because I almost started that way as I was watching the movie. I was like, this movie just kind of has moments. And then the more I thought about what I watched, I was like, is really there. It's one of those, let it sink in, go see it again. I really thought this one popped, but if it didn't, hit those comments down below. Let me know what didn't work for the movie. Let me know what you did like. What did you like about the Dumbo stuff? The parade of pink elephants, that bubble sequence, wonderful. Let me know your favorite parts of the movie, the things that didn't work. If you haven't seen the movie, has the Seaman enticed you? I hope so, man, because I thought this was a really nice match with Tim Burton this time around. So leave all that down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, why don't you hop over there, hit that subscribe button, and then hit the little bell so you can get alerts every time I make a new video. The Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I am the Seaman, and I'm signing off. Peace. I wish I had ears so I could fly away, Corey, fly away. Well. If you aren't still here, looking for something else to check out that's Seaman related, why don't you check out a video like this guy or this guy? And if you really want to help the Seaman out in year 2, hit that subscribe button and come join the Cinema Sit Down squad, kids. You know what to do. See ya.